Okay, everybody, and welcome to the patch 13.22 preview part 2. This one includes all the changes and actually the numbers behind them. As always, what we're going to do here is we're going to read through their explanations, and as we do that, we'll go through the changes themselves on the other tab. We'll look over them here. Okay. So, full 13.22 preview. As always, as a reminder, everybody, give me your comments, give me your thoughts on anything said here, and feel free to use it as a podcast. So, mage attack speed. We're looking at varying approaches for different champions based on whether they have a good attack frame, how much we want them to be attacking, etc. We know this may put some champions a bit over balance-wise, but we want to assess how impactful this change in and then scale back where necessary, probably in the early game. So what are they doing? They're buffing the timing on certain champions, the missile speed on other champions, and the attack speed on other champions. So personal opinion, a lot of these are good and some of these are not good. So we have timing, singed, that's fine. Rumble is a bit sus because Rumble is already dominating the hell out of worlds, and giving Rumble even better auto attacks at a time when he's one of the best competitive picks in the game is a bit weird. Heimerdinger's not exactly doing bad, but okay. Ziggs is, well, they're nerfing Ziggs down here, so that's fine. Ivern, Nico, Ari, Twisted Fate, that's fine. Teemo is a bit sus as well, because if Teemo has to spend less time in his auto attack, then that means he can chase you better, he can kite you better. That's just a buff to Teemo. That makes him harder to fight. That makes him more capable of dominating the early game, where he's already doing pretty good. So for missile speed, we have Kurtis, Cassiopeia, Annie, Viger, Teemo, Orianna. None of these really matter, to be honest. Buffing the missile speed of Teemo's auto attack is fine. It doesn't really change anything. Buffing the timing on his auto attack, on the other hand, that one could be a bit of a dumb move there, Riot. I know you're saying this, but you know this may put some champions over balance-wise, but then, why do this to top lane? Why is it every time Riot does something, top lane suffers? It feels like sometimes Riot just has top lane tied up in their basement, and every time they get bored, they just go torture it a little bit, just for fun, just for their own amusement. Then direct buffs to attack speed, so not just timing and not just missile speed, but direct buffs to attack speed, meaning how much actual DPS you will do. We have buffs to Singed, which I don't think Singed is particularly doing bad. Does he really need more attack speed? He was kind of given deliberately low attack speed to keep him from just putting his poison on people while auto attacking them. So that one is a bit odd. He's not exactly doing bad. He's not good, but he's not bad. Heimerdinger is definitely sus here. Heimerdinger definitely can use attack speed to help his turrets and do way better. So Heimerdinger getting better timing and better attack speed, A, lets him kite way better, and then B, lets him get in more DPS and more sneaky auto attacks better. So I'm not sure that one's a good idea at all. Annie's fine. Vel'Koz, Xerath, Lissandra, Zillion, Anivia, Zoe. Ryze is a bit sus. And actually, to be honest, Zoe is a bit sus as well. Because, remember, every time Zoe uses an ability, she hits with her auto attack, right? That's her passive. Every single time you hit someone with an ability, or I should say every time you use an ability, then you can use an auto attack afterwards to do bonus damage, right? So if Zoe has more attack speed, this allows her to proc her passive hits more frequently, which then just gives her more power, particularly in the early game where, let's be blunt, maybe she doesn't need it. Ryze is also a bit weird, but whatever. Syndra, Taliyah, Ahri, and LeBlanc. Now, LeBlanc is a bit weird here because, to be blunt, they just shit on LeBlanc's attack speed to try to keep her from going top lane and to try to keep her from building more of an AD champion. So now they're just sort of undoing that. I'm not sure this is a great idea from Mr. Riot Video Games, but that's all the mages, that's all the attack speed changes going on there. I really think that there should be some adjustments to begin with on certain champions, like maybe Heimerdinger and Teemo, because they are clearly buffing their early game. Clearly, just giving Heimerdinger more attack speed, giving Teemo better timing, Like, how much is that going to buff him? Is that going to buff him by like 7% win rate? No, 0.5, 1%, probably somewhere around there. And I don't think either of these champions are particularly bad. They just aren't fun and no one wants to play them, which also means no one wants to play against them. So all I'm saying here is if no one wants to play against these champions, then why are they being pushed into being viable? I don't know. I don't think you know either. Let's go on to Briar. Briar changes are targeted at reducing how potent Briar is in lower skill brackets and secondarily targeted at reducing the effectiveness of some of the lethality builds that have been picking up recently. We'd like Briar builds to still be fighter oriented. So Riot wants Briar to be a bruiser, a fighter. They don't really want her to be an assassin. I mean, even though she has a point and click gap closer stun execute move, they really don't want her to be using a point and click stun gap closer execute to kill people. Don't ask why, but you know, there you go. At either rate, her Q damage is going down by 20 at max rank. Her Q armor shred is going down by 6% at max rank. Now, for those of you who don't quite, put that together in your head, if she has less percent armor shred on her Q, that makes lethality less good on her because, let's say you have an opponent with 100 armor, right? You shred that by 26%, they are down to having 74 armor. Then if you have like 20 lethality, they're down to having 54 armor. Did I say that right? Yeah. So by nerfing the armor shred on her Q, that makes lethality builds less potent into tanks, and it also just makes them less potent overall. It obviously nerfs the champion overall entirely, but it particularly hits the synergy she has with lethality. Then her R damage is just going down by 50 at max rank, and then the AD ratio is going down from 110% to 75%. So the general idea here with Riot is they want to nerf Briar, period, but they definitely don't. I mean, lethality Briar will still probably be fine, but they want to nerf the synergy she has with lethality overall. Graves is a bit too durable overall, and especially in the early game. I like that he's a good duelist, but he is winning these stat checks early a bit too often. You don't say, right? You don't say. Graves, really? Graves? That champion, Graves, is too stat checky? Really? He's just eing in and stat checking people and brute forcing them to death? That's shocking. I had no idea he's been doing that for 2 years now. Did anyone know Graves has been doing this for 2 years now? I had no idea. So what are they doing? Actually, a fairly significant nerf to his early game. His E stacks, instead of being 4 to 16, are now 2 to 14. That means, and I went and looked this up for you guys here, that means his maximum bonus armor at rank 1 is going from 32 down to 16. So Graves in the early game will be significantly squishier. Graves in the late game will be a little bit squishier, but Graves in the late game is going to go down to... what are they doing? 16. So he's going to go down to 112 armor, which is, 128 to 112. It's a nerf, but it's a 32 down to 16. That's the big nerf. So, Graves will definitely be stat checking a lot worse. Wow. Who knew that one of the most broken champions in the game might actually be, overpowered? Kassadin. Overall, Kassadin benefited from longer, less snowbally games. We're taking some more of elite skewed spells down attack. What are they doing to Kassadin? I didn't actually look at this one. So his EAP ratio is going down and his RAP ratio is going down. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Kassadin had an undocumented buff on his ultimate that was later documented, but for those of you who don't keep track, his ultimate AP ratio is buffed from 40% to 60%. With people generally being more durable and games lasting longer and allowing him to get to late game more often. I pulled my entire tab over here rather than just a Kassadin thing. So with all this stuff going over here, basically it means they're going to tone him down a bit. So basically his RAP ratio is going down to 50. So since the buff, it's going to go down from 40 to 50. And so it's still a buff from where it used to be, but then his EAP ratio is going from 85% down to 80%. So 5% less AP ratio on his E, 10% less AP ratio on his R. Okay. Nyla. Nyla's Q Well, let's just finish with Cassidy, I guess. So basically, they're just nerfing Cassidy. Okay. Nyla. Large cooldowns like R tend to be better utilized by normal players who also tend to stand in the ability more for longer. We're reducing the total impact of this ability that intends to make her weaker in normal play without impacting her higher levels of play as much. So basically, they are trying to nerf Nyla more at the lower ranks than at the higher ranks. How are they tending to do that? By better used by normal players who also stand to stand in the ability for longer. Basically, they're going to nerf her R damage, I guess. Okay. So her Q bonus attack speed is going from 100 to 60%. Sorry, I'm trying to get from 10 to 60% to 10 to 50%. So at max rank, her Q will give her 10% less attack speed. Then her R damage is going down. Basically, the total AD ratio on her ultimate is going from 232% to 200%. So less attack speed on her Q, less scaling damage on her ultimate, but her R base damage is the same. They should also hit those weird lethality Nyla builds that show up every so often, just kind of using her ultimate to one-shot people. Okay. Senna is being nerfed. Well, let's read here. Senna gained a bunch from the longer, less snowballing games, and her Q usages and outputs are significantly better by higher skill players. We're taking some power away from this while still making sure the ability remains satisfying. So basically, Senna scales way too well. How are they nerfing her? By only nerfing her early game. Wait, what? Yeah, I don't know, dude. So basically, her Q healing is going from 30 to 170 to 30 to 150. 20 less damage at max rank. Then her healing is also going down by 20. So 20 less damage and 20 less healing at max rank Q. This does not affect her scaling at all, which has been a significant problem with Senna over the game's history. That as a support, she scales really good and allows her to just kind of snowball games out of control. They're really not addressing that, which is frustrating because, like, here, let me show you what I'm trying to say here. Basically, Nyla shows up in these patch notes so often, so very often. Like, this champion only got released like 4 years ago. She was added at the end of season 9, so it's been like 3.5 years. In 3.5 years, she has had this many patch nodes. Like, she's in the patch, like every 2 patches, she is in the patch. She's been here 13.18, 13.4, 13.3, 13.1b, 12.23, 12.12, 12.11, 12.10, 12.10 again, 12.4, 12.3, 12.2, 11, 20, 11, 17, 11, 15, 11, 11, 11, 5, 11, 2. Oh my God. Like, at what point, serious question, right? Like, just me to you. At what point is it like, man, maybe we should get a longer listing change to this champion. Maybe we should try to balance this champion in a way that solves long-term issues, so that instead of just constantly fumbling around numbers a lot, we come up with a solution to this champion that she isn't showing up every second patch note. Ziggs is too strong everywhere, but stronger in bot than mid. We're targeting an armor nerf, which should be effective in bot and would usually be pretty effective in mid, especially in normal play, but Ziggs is longer range than most and is less affected than he normally be. So basically what they're saying is, in mid lane, an armor nerf won't hit him as hard because he tends to outrange all the physical damage anyway. In bot lane, it will target him more because he tends, at the very least, people try to focus him as much. So his base armor is being reduced by 22 to 18. 4 less base armor, and especially bringing him down to 18, is a very significant armor nerf. Now, I need to remind everybody that Ziggs is not like a little bit overpowered right now. He's not like, oh my God, this champion is a little bit overtuned right now. This champion is kind of colossally overtuned right now. Oh wait, wrong button. That's my zooming in noise effect. Do you guys like it? Do you guys like my zoom in noise effect? Please leave a comment saying if you like it in. Anyway, so we got Ziggs. His win rate is 53%, which is a bit much. So his armor is being dropped by a total 4, bringing him down to 18 armor, which is kind of significant. I think on AD carries, armor nerfs tend to do way more than you'd think, because your average AD carry, you know, I'm sorry to say this, but I feel like your average bot laner actually really doesn't understand the game. To be blunt, to be real with you, I think your average bot laner really doesn't actually understand what they're doing and often gets all-in more and hit more often. But I think this will definitely hit Ziggs because Yeah. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Gragas high haste, codex stacking, E spamming builds, while funny and largely ineffective, just look a bit strange bugged. So adjusting the cooldown paradigm. Okay, they're actually giving Gragas a fairly significant buff that I'm not really sure why they're doing it. His E cooldown, instead of being a 3-second refund, will now be a 40% cooldown refund, which is a buffed before 70 ability haste. Now, the problem here, this buffs him all early to mid game and only really starts to fall off at like 3 items, and only if he stacks ability haste. To keep this into perspective for you guys, this means that his E cooldown, instead of being 3 seconds refund at rank 1, will be 5.6 seconds refund at rank 1. That's not that small of an amount. That means even at rank 5, this is still a 4.8 second refund. Yes, it's reduced by stacking cooldown reduction, but how much cooldown reduction are you going to get by one item? Let's say you get 40 cooldown ability haste, right? Like it's still going to be a buff is what I'm trying to say, right? So when they say it's a buff before 70 ability haste, that is a buff throughout the entire early game. To a champion already known for bullying everybody in the laning phase, they're kind of buffing him really hard in the laning phase. I highly suspect that this change will make him too strong in the laning phase. I'm not really sure why. I'm not really sure why they're doing this change, just to stop funny meme builds. Is stopping funny meme builds really worth kind of destabilizing the game's balance? My personal opinion, I don't think it is. I don't think screwing with the game's balance is a good idea. His R travel time is also going from 0.55 to 0.5, which makes it easier for him to ult and makes it less reactable. So, personal opinion, I don't think this is a good change at all, and I don't quite understand what they're doing here. What is the purpose here? They said they're funny and largely ineffective. They just look strange and bugged, but they're funny and largely ineffective. What is the problem here? You're literally saying this build isn't very good, but it's really funny to watch. Therefore, we're going to screw over the entire game to try to kill it. What does that mean, right? What are you trying to say here? I don't understand. Seraphine, targeting mostly the outputs that are tied to farming roles, AP ratios, Q as a farming tool, etc., and leaving most of the supported outputs intact, hoping that this keeps your support power roughly the same while tapping down bot. So that's pretty much what I figured yesterday was going to happen. I mean, I all knew. That's why I told you guys to comment what you think they're going to do to Seraphine, because I definitely knew. It was pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious what they were going to do with Seraphine. They're just going to destroy her AP ratios. So the AP ratio on her passive is going from 7% to 5%. So at 50 to 250 AP, depending on her level, it now breaks even. Above that, it's a nerf. The base damage went up, the AP ratio went down. So she got nerfed late game again. Her Q passive, instead of, because when she goes, ha! I don't I don't remember the quotes. When she throws her Q, and it does like the splash damage. Oh my god, sorry. I need to sneeze. No. When she throws her Q and it does the splash damage, and she goes, ha! Something like that. I don't know. That does bonus damage based on how much health you're missing. It used to do the maximum bonus damage if you were missing, if you had 25% of your health. Now it does the most damage if you had 15% of your health. So basically a complete damage nerf forever unless you're at 15% or below. Which, obviously, that's a very large nerf to her Q. That's a pretty good nerf to her passive if you're trying to build AP. Then, not satisfied with that, they're also now reducing the AP ratio on her W shield from 25% down to 20%. So an AP ratio nerf on her passive, an AP ratio nerf on her W, and a damage nerf on her Q. So, yeah, I don't think these are really adjustments. This just seems to be a giant nerf. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really sure why they're putting her down in adjustment. They're like, we're gonna adjust Seraphine. How are you gonna adjust Seraphine? We're nerfing her passive and her Q and her W. And then they just stare at you. And you're like, and then what? And they're like, and then nothing. Those are our adjustments. And that's just a nerf, right? It's like, no, it's an adjustment. Okay. So then on the champions that they didn't actually go over directly here, but who were actually listed in here. Okay. Dr. Mundo from 2 to 3% max HP to 2 to 3.4%. So basically I don't really even know a way to put this, right? It's basically just memeing this champion. They're just handing him a towel. After killing Dr. Mundo, after slaughtering him, they're just like throwing a towel on him, like, clean yourself off. That's a Rush Hour joke, and you guys will never understand it. Okay, so yeah, basically Dr. Mundo got murdered, and Riot doesn't really care that much. Anyone think this is going to be the change he needs to be viable again? I mean, at the low ranks, I'm sure it'll help for sure, but maybe not so much at the high ranks, yeah? Maybe not so much literally anywhere outside of silver. Okay. Rammus, his W bonus armor flat is going from 30 to 40. The total armor scaling is unchanged. So basically they're trying to do the funny meme where defensive ball curl scales on armor even better. So defensive ball curl will give 40 armor and 10 magic resist. I'm not sure why Riot is so adamant that Rammus must get a lot of armor and no MR, and that's like the only way they could balance him. I'm not really sure. I don't get it. I don't know, dude. I don't. But that's what they're doing. Okay. So Rammus gets more armor to try to balance him back up, but his MR, no changes at all. Okay. We have Tom Kench. His passive bonus health ratio is going from 5% down to 4%, which is a very, very, very significant nerf. I don't think like Tom Kench was like that broken. Like obviously I think he was like a little bit overtuned. He's down to 51% at Diamond Plus. How's he doing in Emerald? So at Emerald he's 52%. At Platinum he's at 52%. I don't know. I feel like dropping the scaling on his passive by 20%. So he just does like 20% less damage from his his passive scaling. I feel like that's actually a rather significant nerf. Maybe they should have gone to like 4.5%, but all the way down to 4%, that's kind of brutal. Not gonna lie to you, that's kind of brutal. I'm not really sure what to say about that one. I kind of disagree with that one. That's too much, right? You're making the champion unviable. Okay. Brand is being adjusted. His E is going from 65 to 165 to 60 to 180, and then the AP ratio is going up by 10%. So basically, it does 5 less damage at rank 1 with a 10% higher AP ratio, then does more damage for the entire rest of the game. I don't know. He breaks even at 50 ability power, so above 50 ability power, he does more damage even at rank 1. And then if you rank up his E, it does more damage per rank. That's not really an adjustment, that's more of just a straight buff. I'm not sure why that brand change isn't just up here in buffs. I don't really understand that. So basically he's being adjusted to just be directly buffed. I don't get it. Do you get it? Does anyone get it? Anyone want to tell me if you get it? I don't know. Maybe this is like a jungle nerf or something, but then it's not I don't know, dude. Okay. Janna. Oh boy, these are a lot of changes with Janna. I guess I'll go through them because I'm kind of under time for the video anyway, right? Like this video is normally much longer, so I guess we'll go over it because we're under time here. We got time to spare, right? So attack range is going from 500 to 550, so she's getting her auto attack range back. Her attack timing is going Basically, lots of other base stat changes. Okay, they're just changing a lot of things with her base stats. She's got a longer attack range, and she can attack quicker. She now gets back her bonus movement speed is on hit and W damage. No longer provides Janna movement speed towards allies. Okay, so Janna is back to being able to deal not like a lot of damage, but a little bit of damage. Her Q mana cost is going way up. Her Q cooldown is also going way up. Her Q damage is going up, but let's see, the flat damage is going up. The AP ratio is also going up. Okay. W cooldown is going down from 12 to 8 to 6. The mana cost is going down at max rank, but you'll have to be using it a lot more. The W damage is going up as well. It's down a little bit at the first rank, but then not that far down to the last rank. And remember, it now procs your passive, so it should be a buff everywhere after the early game. Okay. New W passive no longer deactivates while on cooldown. Okay, she keeps her W passive up no matter what. Her W slow duration is going from 3 to 2, which is good. I was worried they weren't going to do that. I was worried we were actually just going to have machine gun perma slow Janna. We already have to fight Zillion. I don't want Zillion part 2 this time with a hard knockup to disengage you, right? So that's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing that they're reducing the duration. In fact, I might want to, if I was right, I might actually push that duration down a little bit more. Okay, her E cooldown is no longer reduced by her Q and W and R, which is good. Her E cooldown, that's her shield. Her E cooldown is no longer reduced when she hits a hard CC. Her E cooldown is going up, so significantly less shields here. Yeah. Basically significantly less shields. Her E no longer gets heal and shield power on CC, and her E shield is going up baseline. So heal and shield power has been removed from her kit, but her shield is going up in baseline, but it should about equal out at max rank anyway. Her shield no longer decays, that's interesting, but the shield duration is going from 5 to 4, and then her shield mana cost is also going down. In total, not a bad list. Pushes her more into being damaged, pushes her less away from having all this weird synergy on hitting her Q knockup. It was a weird thing where like you would hit a Q knockup and then that reduced the cooldown on your shield, which then give you heal and shield power. It was weird and kind of just totally unnecessary, in my opinion. Just totally unnecessary. It's like sometimes you can make a champion more complicated and it doesn't make them better, right? It'd be like, okay, so now if Darius hits his Q, then his bleeds make his W cooldown go down after he hits them with his E, right? Like, sure, sometimes that will be applicable, but 90% of the time you just use your kit anyway and then it just buffs you. But is that really fun? Like, it's basically right, like they just have banners and streamers come down, they're like, yay, you hit your thing, whoopee. Anyway, that's it for Janna. Oh, no, actually, okay, so there's, okay, no. Her E cooldown is now reduced when she hits things, but she don't, oh, okay, I read this wrong, okay. Okay, so she no longer gets the heal and shield power when she CCs someone, but now she gets cooldown reduction when she CCs somebody. Okay, actually, I do like that better. That's way better. So she's got less weird buffs when she hits abilities. Now her cooldowns just go down when she hits her abilities, which is better. I think that's a lot better. Weird buffs I never really like, you know? Like, I don't like that Briar hits her Q, which gives her armor shred, right? Like, you're always going to try to hit your Q, right? Like, what does it matter? And yeah, but so here, if you hit your tornado, if you hit your ultimate, your E cooldown goes down. Okay, I do like that better. Okay, so less weird buffs, more just direct kit synergy. Now, her shield no longer decaying. I don't really understand if that's a good one. The shield duration should maybe be put on 3 seconds instead of 5 then, because especially with it getting its cooldown reduced, we could lead to some really annoying situations where she shields, then gets burst, hits someone with a CC, then gets a shield again, and you're just left sitting there like, yo, wait, what? I don't know. Maybe push the shield duration down from 5 to 3. Yeah, definitely. I think the shield duration should be 3. I think the W slow should be like 1.5. I think that would be about right, but it's like hard to tell because they're changing so many different things. You can't really tell, you know, you can't really tell what's going to be overpowered and underpowered here. I'm just worried that she's going to shield someone, then hit like a Q into a bunch of people, then shield them again. And then, you know, it's just going to get really frustrating to play around. Although I guess that's the skill of the champion. And I did ask for enchanters to get more skill. That just feels like it could get a little tedious if the duration is too long. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Leave a comment.